It is 6 a.m. Wednesday, the 11th of March in Queensland, and we are following what is now newly formed Tropical Cyclone Nathan in the Coral Sea. Based on the latest update from the United States Joint Typhoon Warning Center, they are only carrying this disturbance as a tropical cyclone formation alert, meaning they have not issued their own forecast track, but it's simply a matter of time. It's been quite a while since we've received an update from JTWC, and I'm sure once they issue the next advisory, they will be issuing forecast tracks on this developing tropical cyclone. Meanwhile, the Bureau of Meteorology is not wasting any time. They have officially upgraded Nathan to a tropical cyclone. It is listed as a Category 1, and as it moves toward the west over the next 24 to 48 hours, there is the possibility of cyclone force winds impacting coastal Queensland. That's why cyclone watches and now even warnings are in effect for these areas, and Nathan is expected to intensify into a severe Category 3. The good news is that based on this forecast track, they do anticipate that Nathan will eventually make a turn back toward the east and out to sea. Flash flooding will be a major concern with this system, even if the center of circulation does not cross the coast. Even by looking at the current regional radar animation, there are already significant spiral banding features moving into the coast from Townsville northward, and much of this area is already under a flash flood watch, and this is due to the anticipation that at least localized areas could exceed 400 millimeters of total rainfall over the next 96 hours or the next 4 days. So flash flooding is more than likely going to be the main concern with this system, and secondly, we're going to be dealing with, at the very least, gale force winds right along those coastal communities. Considering that Nathan is only a Category 1, it is somewhat surprising to see just how clearly defined the closed low-level surface circulation is using microwave satellite imagery. Now, you can also make out that the spiral banding features are lopsided to the south and southwest of the circulation, and these are the same banding features that was noted on the regional radar imagery. Using the morning infrared standard imagery, you can see that much of the convection, as noted on the microwave satellite and the radar, is displaced well to the west of the center. There's really not that much activity to the east of the surface circulation, and you can also see this on the shortwave, but also especially on the enhanced infrared. Any convection that does try to go up east of the center quickly gets blown off towards the west, and that's a result of moderate easterly and northeasterly wind shear, and you can see almost a wall taking shape on the water vapor imagery. Again, this is clearly east to northeast wind shear impacting the tropical cyclone. So although conditions may be marginally favorable for slow development, we are not expecting rapid development in this situation. As we look at a wider view of the water vapor, you can see our tropical cyclone just east of Queensland and the much more impressive Cyclone Pam located closer toward Vanuatu and the Solomon Islands. And you can somewhat attribute Pam to being somewhat disruptive to our tropical cyclone in the Coral Sea. Since the outflow directly above this storm is so favorable, some of those upper level winds are fanning outward toward the west into the Coral Sea, and that is inhibiting the development of our secondary system out here near Queensland. The regional water vapor is also beneficial in that you can begin to make out the mid-level steering features that are controlling the track of these storms. And the most prominent feature at the moment is a mid-level ridge, as denoted by the counterclockwise flow across the central Coral Sea. And this mid-level ridge is what's helping to push the system closer toward the north tropical coast. But over time, this ridge is expected to weaken as we see more in the way of mid to upper level troughing moving in from the southwest. This trough will eventually replace the mid-level ridge that we're currently seeing across the Coral Sea, and this will create a northwest to southeast alleyway that will help push the cyclone back offshore toward New Caledonia potentially in the medium range. This is a look at the GFS American Forecast model, and this is the initial time frame. We're looking at the mid-level 500 millibar layer. You can clearly see our tropical cyclone Nathan just to the east of the north tropical coast, but also if we look at the streamline pattern, you can see that there is the mid-level ridge located in the central Coral Sea. To the southwest, we really don't have much of a amplified trough. The pattern is fairly zonal from west to east, but as we go into the next 48 and especially 72 hours, we begin to see some changes. And first, you will also notice that the GFS is the westernmost model. It actually takes the tropical cyclone across land here, at least for a brief period, and this is why it's generating precipitation amounts well in excess of 400 millimeters, and we will take a look at that in just a moment. But also, again, here we are by 72 hours. You can see all of a sudden we have a developing trough here right along the Gold Coast, and this is going to allow the storm to get picked up. This trough is going to be in no hurry to move anywhere. In fact, it's only going to amplify further, and that's really going to pick up our system, and it's going to have no chance of being left behind. Now, the GFS also has a slightly different take in the medium to extended range. Most models take the remnants, or whatever is left of this cyclone, off toward the east, potentially as far east as New Caledonia, whereas as we go into the day 10 range, the GFS still keeps the system over the Coral Sea, and eventually a ridge builds back enough to where we actually get the storm to move closer towards land once again. But again, the GFS is the only model showing such a scenario in the extended range. As we just saw, the GFS is taking the center across land for about 24 hours with a very slow forward motion, so it's no wonder that it's dumping in excess of 20 to 24 inches of precipitation over the next 4 days based on that solution in these areas. And when you do the conversion, that's between 500 and 600 millimeters of total precipitation. Now, once again, it looks as though the GFS may be a little too far west in the short-term movement of the storm, so therefore you may want to cut down these precipitation totals a little bit. I know the Bureau of Meteorology has listed rainfall totals maybe somewhere in excess of 400 millimeters, and I would say that's a pretty good estimate right now, although I wouldn't be surprised if a few localized areas received an upwards of around 500, despite the GFS even being slightly too far to the west. Even Townsville, Cairns, and especially Cooktown are likely to get into the action with at least 300 to 500 millimeters of total rain. Here is a quick look at the more plausible European ECMWF model solution, and we're looking at surface winds. The storm is expected to make its closest approach to the coast sometime around noon or early afternoon on Thursday, and this is the most likely time period that much of these coastal areas, especially to the north of Cairns, will be dealing with at least gale force or probably even Category 1 force winds right along the coast. Now, these winds won't extend too far inland, but right along the coast you're likely going to be dealing with very high winds, and there is also the possibility of significant beach erosion. So that sums up your Cyclone Nathan update. Please keep attuned to the Bureau of Meteorology, especially if you live in the cyclone watch or warning area. Although we're not expecting rapid intensification or a direct landfall with the center moving entirely inland, this is still something to keep an eye on. And if you live in a low-lying area, anywhere near where the center could come in or at least graze the coastline, you need to be ready for the possibility of flash flooding. For more information, you can visit 28storms.com, click on Cyclones near the top tab of the page, and this is where you'll find our video updates, and on the right-hand corner you'll also see our tweets, and even farther down we have a drop-down menu where you can access much of the information that we also provided in this video. So if you want to take a look at things on your own, you're more than welcome to do so.